Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of a tarot story, and I'm super excited because today I'll be finally doing the court cards. And personally, I've been waiting for a long time for the court cards. I mean, just like for me to finally get to it, because I have to get through the majors and the minors, and now I'm at the court cards. And these are the tricky cards in tarot, but they're super fun. Okay, so to start with, I'm just gonna mention how I'm gonna do this. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just sort of talk about the court cards as a whole, what they represent and how you can use them, and what they entail when it comes to meaning. And I think I'll be doing four short videos on court cards. I'm going to do all the pages, and I'm going to do all the knights, I'm going to do all the queens, and then the kings. I thought about doing them in order, like just doing it based on the suit, or just grouping them according to their suit or their element, but I think it's easier if I group all their roles together, because that way we can sort of understand them better through comparison. So yeah, in this video I'll be talking about the courts, and then I'll be starting with the pages. Hopefully I can contain this video so that it's less than 15 or 10 minutes. I kind of intend for these videos to be just short and quick. But yeah, anywho, so let me just start by talking about the courts. So the courts are kind of tricky because I feel like they're really different from the minors and the majors, because they're archetypes, but they're sort of like an aspect of an archetype. They're not exactly archetypes. They're not exactly like a defining moment. So I feel like sometimes that's why it's really hard to capture. And for me personally, I understand the court cards as they're sort of like a persona, or like a role you play, or a face you put on. And I was just thinking of like, if I could give them a keyword to sort of encapsulate their nature or their essence, I would probably go with attitude. So when it comes to court cards, each and individual court card is an attitude that you sort of adopt in certain situations. And court cards, when it comes to court cards, I feel it's always in relationship with something else. For example, if you get, compared to minor arcana or the major arcana, it could be just like an internal moment that you have. It could be an internalized moment. It could be a moment that defines your life. For example, if you get the Emperor, it could just be talking about your personal authority, or maybe meeting somebody who embodies the traits of an emperor. And when it comes to minor arcana, for example, Two of Swords, it could just be a moment of indecision for you, and it doesn't really have to involve another party. But I feel like court cards always will involve another party, and this party could be literally like another person, or it could be a situation, or it could be an object or a memory or something. So I feel like court cards is always viewed in a context of something else. It's always in a relationship with something else. It's when you're engaging or interacting with the world, or when you're engaging and interacting with something else. And it's the attitude that you have when you're doing exactly that. So yeah, I think that's why court cards are usually associated with people, because when you're with a person, when you're with another person, you usually project certain attitude, or you adopt a certain role, or you sort of have persona depending on who you're with, or the types of personalities that you're with. So that's what court cards mean to me. And when it comes to court cards, you can look at it from their elements. So you look at their main suit. For example, I'll be starting with the pages, so it'll be separate elements. But say if you look at wands, the court cards, each individual court card, the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. So you can think of it as like when the element, or when the suit is trying to express itself in different ways. What would it say, or what would it do? For example, Page of Wands, if the element of fire is trying to express itself through its earth aspect, or through the role of a page, what would its personality, or what would its attitude be like? So similarly, if you look at, say, King of Swords, if you look at the suit of swords, and if you look at the element of air, if the spirit of air is trying to express itself through the role of a king, or through the aspect of fire, what would it be like? So you can kind of view the court cards in that lens, and try to just look at the intersections of the elements and the roles, and try to figure out how their personality would come across. So basically, this is how I'm going to sort of break down each court card, and we'll see how that goes, and we'll go from there. Okay, So the pages. Before I start talking about the pages, actually to start with, pages they're really youthful. They're sort of like, to me, they're always like students, or in my mind I always picture them as university students. You know, they're sort of like adult and mature enough to sort of have a sense of who they are and where they want to go, but they haven't exactly learned all they have to learn, or they haven't exactly sort of established a firm foundation of their identity. They're still experimenting, they're still exploring, so that's why I always think of them as university students. They're not completely ignorant of who they are or what they want to be or who they want to be, but they're still sort of figuring it out. So to start, before I start, I just keep using transitional phrases inappropriately, but yeah, think of a situation. Okay, I want you to imagine this. 4 pages, the Page of Wands, Page of Cups, Page of Swords, and the Page of Pentacles. They go on the road trip, and they're all sitting in a car, and they're going somewhere. They're just going on a road trip. So I want you to think about, like, who would be driving, who would do all the planning, what would they be doing on this road trip? What would they, what would they be saying, what would they be sharing, and what role would they play in this particular road trip? And who would get along with who and who wouldn't get along? So think about that, and at the end I'll tell you my answers, and then tell you how I interpret the situation, and we can compare. So it's just a fun activity that you can do to sort of figure out where each page sits in the car, or just what their position is in this road trip. Alright, so starting with Page of Wands, I'm going to be using cards from the Dreaming Way Tarot. If you don't know already, it's like my favorite deck, like, ever. But yeah, so starting, let me just get the camera here. Okay, so starting with a Page of Wands, let me focus the camera. Okay, so starting with the Page of Wands. So Page of Wands is the spirit of fire trying to come across through the lens of earth, and also the spirit of fire playing the role as a page. So page, as I said before, pages are like students. They have an idea of what they want to do, right? They're like an apprentice to somebody. So they're already in the trade. They're already sort of honing their craft. They're already practicing their craft. So they have a basic sense of their identity or where they want to go, but they're still experimenting. So I feel like the key word really is the word experimenting. So when it comes to the Page of Wands, fire is about passion, creativity, feeling inspired, wanting to do something, wanting to try something. So Page of Wands, she always wants to try something new. She's always looking for the next inspiration or the next spark that's going to get her to feel passionate again. And that's what she's doing. She's collecting experiences that will make her feel passionate. And pages always it's the element of earth. So when it comes to earth, I feel like an important factor or an important aspect of earth that really comes across through the pages is, I feel like there's this vibe of environment. So earth is about the community, the environment, the ecosystem, right? So I feel like the Page of Wands, if the fire is sort of experimenting with her environment, I feel like it's if you just think about, if you just have that image, the fire is trying to figure out where it would burn the brightest. So that's why it's going everywhere, it doesn't stop, It kind of doesn't know exactly what it wants. So it wants everything. So it wants to experience everything. And that's the Page of Wands. Page of Wands wants to experience everything because she doesn't know where she would burn the brightest, That's why she's always like kind of impatient if it gets a little bit negative, but for the most part she's just like a firecracker. I remember reading this keyword from the Tarot 101 book or something, but I think that's her personality. She's just always excited, always ready to go, always ready to party, and she's probably the heart of the party. She'll get you really excited, she'll get you to want to have fun with her, and that's who she is. She's always looking for her next passionate outlet or her next inspiration. And yeah, because she wants to try everything, she gets bored easily. So say she tries something and then she's like, okay, actually this is not what I want. So she'll move on to the next thing. So when it comes to like behaviors or whatever, she is always starting things. She's always starting something, a creative project, or she'll initiate some kind of a plan. She'll be like, oh hey, let's go to this place, let's check out this let's check out this concert. And then last minute she might be like, actually guys, I want to go to this do this other thing, so I'm gonna say no to the concert. So she's always moving around because as a fire, as a the Page of Wands, she doesn't know where her fire is the brightest. So that's why she's going everywhere to find that spot, to find that sweet spot. So again, experimenting. She's experimenting with experimenting with places to burn, experimenting with her fire to see what would inspire her most, what would sort of draw out the most of her passion, like what's that one thing that would just spark her fire, and that fire would just burn and reach its new heights or something. And if we talk about her shadow for a little bit, if her shadow side gets sort of overtakes her, then she'll usually be very impatient. You know, she has a very short attention span, so she might be really selfish with the people around her. She'll be like, oh, everything's about me. I want to try this, so this is where we're gonna go. So sometimes she feels like nobody could really catch up to her, and then she feels like she's just impatient with the world. She's just like, well, how come, you know, because she's rolling in like triple speed, right? So everything's just kind of rolling by, and then sometimes she feels like there's a sense of disorientation, or the sense that she's alone, or the fact that how come nobody understands her, and then she can be a little bit selfish with that when her shadow takes over. But yeah, that's Page of Wands. Overall, she's very fun-loving, very exciting, likes to experience new things for sure. So that's the Page of Wands. Okay, next we have the Page of Swords. So I've always feel like Page of Swords is this is a page that she could easily get snobby, and she could easily get like really egotistic. But yeah, for the most part. So going back to the keyword experimenting, swords, or the spirit of air, is all about ideas or communication or concepts or logic. So when it comes to Page of Swords, she's experimenting with her ideas, or she's experimenting with modes of communication that will bring out the best of her, that was sort of she's experimenting with how she could articulate herself, and how she could affect the people around her, and how she could affect her environment with her words or her ideas. And Page of Swords, they're usually very, very well read, because if you look at the aspect of Earth, or again, Earth is about environment or history or even tradition. So she would have a really great sense, or she would have really great knowledge of what's already there. So, you know, she would really read into the different schools of thought, say she's into philosophy or whatever she's into. She would make sure she sort of understands a bit of everything. So she will have the basic fact of things, in which she could use that as a foundation to build her own opinion, to sort of expand on her own thoughts. So Page of Swords likes a good debate. She likes to communicate, because that's how she learns. She needs to communicate her ideas to initiate a response to, or to sort of get a response, or to sort of start a conversation. And then through that exchange, she will sort of either define her own opinion more, or sort of develop new opinions. So she loves a good debate. She loves a good intellectual discussion, because she's always thirsty for knowledge and new sort of stimulants for her brain or for her thoughts. And she likes to read, she likes to research, and then she's just very, very knowledge oriented. She likes to gain more knowledge, and she likes to gain more insights. And yeah, again, she's experimenting with her ideas. She's experimenting with how she could communicate in the best way. And yeah, so when it comes to attitude, she's you know, she's very inquisitive, she's very intellectually curious, and she likes to know her facts. She likes to do, like, she needs to do all the research, because she needs to feel like she's on top of everything when it comes to the things that, when it comes to the subject of her expertise, or the area of expertise. So she needs to be very informed about what she wants to know. So she'll do her best to know what she needs to know in order to sort of form her own perspective. So she likes to give you her peace of mind. And when when her attitude is balanced, she's just very inquisitive. She's just very, you know, she's just like you know, she's just like that student who's always raising her hand in class, and she's always answering the questions or asking questions, and then just having this dialogue with her professors or her teachers. So that's how I sort of see Page of Swords. And when it comes to her shadow, she can easily get egotistical. She can be very sarcastic, because as a member of the Swords, or the Air Clan, she is very, very good with language. So she can be very sharp-tongued, and very, very sarcastic, and her words can just cut right into you. And being sort of like youngish or having a youthful energy, she wouldn't really think twice about the consequences of those words or the consequences of her ideas. And yeah, so you know, when she's in tune with her shadow, she's very stubborn, doesn't want to listen, you know, she just thinks she's right like all the time. But when this attitude is balanced, it'll just be like a nice sort of civilized exchange of ideas. So it's like a good, it's like a good conversation, you know, if you have the attitude of the Page of Swords. Yeah, so I can personally relate to this card a lot because I feel like that was me in university when I was exposed to different ideas about, you know, I was really into feminism, right? So I studied into feminism a lot. I was exposed to all these ideas about social constructions, you know, ideas about gender and race and that kind of thing. So you know, it was like a lot of input of knowledge, and I feel like I was sort of like a Page of Swords at the time, and I think that's why I can decode her really easily. Whereas if you notice, I spent quite a lot of time on Page of Wands. Actually, she's one of the court cards that I always had trouble with because I guess I just don't have that kind of personality where I'm just constantly needing to like seeking new inspiration. I mean, I like to be inspired, but I'm just not that fast paced. So she used to give me a lot of trouble, but now we're getting to know each other, you know, it's all good. Okay, and the Page of Cups. This is probably just like me in a nutshell. So Page of Cups, she's definitely the daydreamer, and she's, you know, has a rich imagination. She usually likes to sort of stand back and observe, and then just sort of swims in her own head, swims in her own emotions, and she likes to sort of listen to your story and experience your feelings and your emotions through listening to your story, or just imagining stories within her own mind and just kind of projecting herself into that story, into that narrative, and just trying to see and explore that narrative with her imagination, trying to see what it's like. So she's really just in her own world most of the time. She's, you know, that's why she has a huge teapot. She's kind of supplying her own experiences with her imagination and her dreamy nature, and then see this like fantastical fish just coming towards her. So I think because of her I feel like in a way she's very loving and she's very friendly because she's very naive in a way. You know, she sort of expects the best out of people. You know, she hasn't experienced the hardships of reality yet. You know, she's just full of dreams and imagination. She thinks everything works out for the best, and she sort of has these dreamy moments or dreaming understanding of the world, of how the world works. And yeah, she doesn't, because she lives in her own world, it's not that she's antisocial or lonely, but she just likes to be in her own space and then just be with her own thoughts and her sensitivities. Yeah, so she doesn't really like to approach people. If you're lucky, or if you sort of, this is what I wrote down on my notebook. If you're lucky, or by chance, you might find her in the folds of her imagination, tucked away in the corner of a vintage bookstore. So you sort of have to chance upon the real her. It's like she's sort of just hiding in like it's like a wink in time or something, you know. She's sort of like so you have to go through a wardrobe to get to Narnia. You have to go through like a glitch or like a magical portal to get to her world. So yeah, she doesn't really like to go out of her world, but once discovered, you'll see what a deep person she is, and what a creative person she is, and what a caring person she is. So her attitude is that she's very dreamy, very imaginative, and she likes to explore different situations in her own mind. She's dreaming about the things that she will experience. She's dreaming about the people that she's going to meet. So she's very like fairy tale like, very innocent, and very, very kind, because she you know, she just has that sort of perfect, ideal, beautiful image in her world, and that's just kind of who she is. Okay, last but not least, in the group of pages, we got the group of, oh no, the Page of Pentacles. So for me, she's always like the hardworking student. She's very studious, she's very on point, well prepared, very organized, because she is earth of earth. It's all about the things that she can touch. So she's highly goal-oriented. She's the kind of person who would set goals and then she would constantly review them. She would make sure she's prepared in every single way, and she will make sure that she has access to all the resources that she needs to accomplish what needs to be done. So if she's a student and she's preparing for an exam, you bet that in class she'll be the one typing just furiously, just taking down notes and then asking necessary questions to the professor, you know, preparing for the format of the midterm, getting her paper ready like weeks ahead of its due date, constantly reviewing her notes, organizing her notes, reorganizing her notes, revamping her notes. And when she's studying for an exam, she'll probably be the one organizing the study groups and lead, you know, handing out like question sheets or whatever. So she's just very well prepared, very, very, very organized. And as a result, she could be a little bit perfectionist. Sometimes that could be a bad thing if it goes into the shadow side, when it goes to unbalance. But overall, yeah, she's just a very, very on point person. And yeah, she likes to plan out everything, and I feel like she's probably the most mature of all the pages, or just in the way that she's very grounded. You know, she seems very unfazed, because usually she anticipated all the things that could happen, and because of that, she doesn't really like surprises. She doesn't really like when people take her out of her routine. So she'll be the one, like, if you think about like going back to your university days, everybody is going out on Friday night, she'll be like, oh guys, no, sorry, I have a midterm on Monday, I have to study. So that's like I imagine something what the Page of Pentacles would say. And yeah, I feel like her attitude is just like, I have to be prepared, I have to be organized about everything, because that's the only way that everything is going to work out together. And that's the only way where everything can sort of come together in the right way. So attention to detail, very, very detail oriented, very precise, and very, very practical and down to earth. Okay, so that's all the pages. You can't really see my gestures because my camera is a little bit panned out, but remember that question I asked you about the road trip. So here's my version. If you don't want to hear it, you want to come up with your own version first, just pause the video. But yeah, if the 4 pages go on a road trip, the Page of Wands would be the girl who is always like, oh guys, I want to go see this. Actually, no, I'm gonna go see this instead. She'll just be the one who's like everywhere, like all over the place. She wants to go everywhere. She wants to do everything. She wants to eat at every restaurant. She wants to go to every sightseeing, every place that she could sightsee. So she'll just be all over the place. She wants to do everything, and she's always super excited, but she'll always be like super hyper, and then she's the fun one in the car. She's like, with her there, they'll never be bored on a road trip. She'll be like singing songs, making jokes, and then she'll just be like the life of the party. So that's the Page of Wands. The Page of Cups, she'll probably just be sitting in the backseat, tucked, like hugging her knees, like reading on a novel or something, like adjusting her glasses, wearing like a beanie. I don't know why I picture that. Or she could be with a drawing pad or drawing board, or just her sketchbook. She'll be sketching something, or just secretly writing a poem, not talking much, and then she'll respond when you talk to her, but she won't really contribute to the conversation. But she's kind of there. She's just kind of pleasantly there. She's just kind of in her own bubble, but you know, she's just kind of with her group. So definitely that's the Page of Cups. Page of Swords, she'll be telling you about the newest feminist article that she read, and like, you know, like comparing like the 4th wave feminism with 2nd wave feminism. She'll be telling you about the newest like gossips, or this new thing that she learned, or this new argument that she heard, and then she'll be trying very hard to talk about her opinions, and she'll just be blah 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 telling you about what she thinks about the world, or what she thinks about whatever she's studying at the moment. So she'll be the loudmouth on the car. She'll just be talking, talking, and talking. And Page of Pentacles, she's the one driving, and she'll be the one driving. She will be the one who plans out the itinerary, and she'll be the one who plans out, who makes the reservations for the restaurants. She'll be the one who buys all the tickets of places that they're gonna go into, and she's basically the leader of the group. She's in charge. Like, she makes sure that everybody gets their meal, and then she's just like has like backup plan upon backup plan upon backup plan to make sure that the trip goes smoothly. She's sort of she's the one who makes sure that, you know, they booked a hotel, and then they purchased the ticket, and they know when the bus leaves and when the bus comes. So she's the one with all the schedule and all the planning, all the preparation. And yeah, so she will probably be very stubborn about sticking to the schedule. So I feel like she's probably not going to go along with the Page of Wands, because she wants to go everywhere and Page of Pentacles just wants to like follow the plan, stick to the plan, but Page of Wands just wants to go everywhere. And I feel like Page of Pentacles will get along with Page of Cups really well, because Page of Cups kind of doesn't really take up a lot of space, not in the way that she's absent, but I feel like Page of Pentacles and Page of Cups, they're both sort of feminine and receptive elements, right? You know, earth and water, so they could kind of get along well. They would respect each other's boundaries and give each other space. And Page of Pentacles would, you know, when I feel like Page of Cups would give Page of Pentacles the, like, it's like a good balance, because Page of Pentacles usually doesn't have a lot of imagination for unexpected things or dreamy things, or she doesn't really have a lot of imagination because she's very rooted in the real world. And I feel like Page of Cups would be like a nice friend to have to sort of balance her practicality a little bit. And I feel like Page of Pentacles can hang out with a mature Page of Swords, but when things get too like haughty and when they start arguing, I feel like Page of Pentacles would just want to retreat and just to be like, okay, we can't agree to disagree. Let's just not talk at all. So I feel like Page of Pentacles and Page of Swords could get along well together, but really depends on the other aspect of their personality. And yeah, and I feel like Page of Wands and Page of Cups could get along together too. Page of Cups could just be dragged around by Page of Wands, and then you know, Page of Wands just wants company, and Page of Cups doesn't really mind, you know, she just get dragged along to whatever. And Page of Cups doesn't really mind. Like, she could just go along with everybody. So she's kind of like the quiet but also fully participating one in a weird way, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so that's just what I think would be like the group dynamic between all of these 4 pages if they go on a road trip. So how about you? So who's driving? Who's prepping everything? Who will be doing what? What's your version of the road trip? So let me know in the comments below, because I'm super curious and I'm kind of hyper right now for no reason. Yeah, but it's good energy, so I like it. So yeah, what do you think of the pages? Do you have a page in particular that you kind of struggle with? Which page could you identify with the most? I personally identify with Page of Cups and Page of Swords, mostly Page of Cups. And yeah, Page of Wands is probably the one girl that I'm still working on, but yeah, it's getting there. It's always a journey, right? And yeah, that's all I have to say about pages. Knights next, and then the queens, and then the kings, so stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, let's see if I missed anything. Nope, I think I've said everything I need to say, and yeah, until next time, be the hero of your own story, guys. See ya.